is sleeping with somebody on the first date.
Okay.
Do you have any hard, fast rules on that, or is it kind of whatever happens? Tell me about that. Like, do you, is that your goal when you go out with somebody, or is it just kind of like, well, we'll see what happens? Have you had any long-term relationships from somebody you slept with right away?
I have had long-term relationships from first date sex. Yes. So it's possible. Mm-hmm. And not just for me, but I think in general, it's certainly possible. I think there's a difference between, you can overanalyze things, and I have a tendency to do that. And then you can just go with the flow. And I like to say, in matters of style, go with the flow. In matters of like principle, you might need to stand firm on a couple things. It's not a goal so much, like,
okay.
But
so you don't go out with somebody just like, God, I hope I get laid tonight. Is it more?
No,
like,
I'd rather spank it myself 3 times before the date and not have all that.
So you don't
pressure.
have that anxiety and that like gusto.
But here's the thing. How am I gonna know it's gonna be amazing?
Right. Or that person's going to be amazing? Is that what you mean? Like, how do you know you're going to connect with that person on a level where you'd want to get to that?
Well, it goes back to bedside manner. It's like, suppose I seduced my first date into bed, and she was a wild woman in bed.
Right.
That I was not ready for, that I did not come out of the gate storming.
Hold on.
And she wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and I was like, hey, baby, time out.
Take it down a notch. Let's just...
All that, I mean, I think about effort. I think about energy. I think about, like, how much that took to get there for someone to, like, you know, for that experience not to be...
To throw all the cards on the table.
Yeah, as amazing as you think it's going to be. Like, if they say that women are sort of obsessed with attention, guys are obsessed with sex, but even if we're bad at sex, we're still obsessed with it. Right? We all think we're porn stars. We all think we're the Superman lover.
Okay.
We all think whatever. But
that's nice. Nice to know.
but I would say that there's a tendency to underperform, right?
Oh, really? To underperform?
To underperform. Just
why?
Because here's the thing. I mean, the
biggest revelation of the night.
Because
now I know.
Now
I know what's going on.
But here's the thing. So if I'm gonna have a first, I mean, and I think this is a good example. I'm gonna have first date sex. I feel a very heavy onus. I feel a very heavy expectation to plow through it, right? So, you know, you want it to be natural, and you want it to be give and take, and you want it to like really, really, really flow well, but there's a tendency to be like, I gotta knock this shit out the box. Okay. And
yeah, that's what I would think that everybody's thinking, like, I gotta make this good. This is my audition.
Yeah.
I gotta make this the number one time that she ain't ever gonna forget.
I don't know. This is gonna get super personal, but you know, my step sister growing up, so the daughter of my dad before my dad met my mom, was 10 years older than me, and she was, you know, she was involved in, like, you know, exotic dancing and stuff like that. I learned from those girls at a very young age.
Gotcha.
Exactly what was going on in that world, and you know, it
they gave you the pointers at a young age.
Too young.
Too much.
Totally corrupted.
Too much, yeah.
But I will say that you know, I don't know if it's less about the audition. It's more about do I really want to share my energy with someone. Like, it can't just be to get a nut off. It just can't be to get your rocks off, and it's
got to be somewhere in between, like your intimate best to I can't just like make this 5 minutes. Or am I simplifying?
Well, I think the problem with the date is the date's probably typically going to happen at night, and maybe we're just showing our age and getting old. But it's like, you know, it's kind of like that Daft Punk, like, we're up all night to get lucky, right? Like, do I really want to?
You're like, I'm not up
Do
all
I
night
really
get
want
lucky
to stay up
anymore.
all night?
I'm not up all night.
You know, it'd be one thing if it were 4 in the afternoon. It'd be one thing if it were 10
That was my
o'clock
post today.
at night. But
9 o'clock. If you're what? You're texting me after 9 o'clock? Forget it. I'm not going anywhere.
But you know, at 4 a.m. Do I still want to be begging for pussy? No.
Yeah.
So
You don't want to be hitting with all the gusto at that time.
So that's a piece of it. So yes, is the you know, Herculean feat, is the King Arthur Knights of the Round Table, like pulling that sword out
Right.
and slamming it down? Is that is that the fantasy? Is that sometimes the reality? Yes and yes. But I tend to not know if I want to sleep with a woman until until I've kissed her, until until we've gotten close. Like I don't.
So you have those kind of other moments that make you feel like you either want to move forward or you're going to pull back and be like, I'm going to wait and see where this goes.
Yeah, I think that on the flip side of that, like not being intimate immediately or taking sort of some time to get there, sometimes that sort of opens it up to, you know, okay, I'm going to pursue other options that I think will get me to that result, or I think that'll get me to that outcome. And
you mean with that person or
no,
in somebody else?
With another one.
Okay.
So, you know, it's
like you're maybe just not feeling, you're not jiving with that person. That's to use that phrase. You're not jiving with somebody, so you're going to cut and run.
Either that or pursue other options until something else comes around. I mean, I just think that's reality. There's it's just you can't predict it. It's like nearly unpredictable.
Yeah. And I feel like it's really hard with online dating to figure. I mean, it's obviously when you meet somebody in person, then you're gonna already have had that chemistry a little bit. That's why you went on a date with them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in my experience, that's what's happened. Like, if I meet somebody in person, I already have that chemistry with them, where I'm like, oh, hey, who are you? But if you're meeting somebody online, I feel like it's a total toss-up of whether you're going to have chemistry with somebody.
It's
maybe 80-20.
I mean, I would hope that if someone agrees to hang out with me, that they are either not preoccupied with something, right? So
or someone else.
So you don't want to be the option, right?
Yeah.
You want to be the desire. You want to be the choice.
You should be open to that relationship.
Yeah, but sometimes the reason for not banging someone the first night is something you can't control. It could be, I don't know, somebody could have something going on medically, or they could have a yeast infection, or I don't know, something, right? Where you're like, hey,
those
look,
things happen.
Hey, you can't. You
go on a date and you're like, son of a bitch.
You can't. You can't.
Female body strikes again.
Or something. I mean, some insecurity. Right. I mean, it could even be a guy thing too. And that's just a reality, right? So you can't always just decide like, oh, hey, I can't go in the front door. Maybe I can go in the back door, right? Like that's just
you can't throw that out there on the first date.
That's just a wild expectation, and so.
Oh my god, that would be the end of any relationship with somebody if he's like, I'm like, dude, I can't, I'm on my period, and the guy was like, that's okay, I'll hit her from the back. I'll be like, immediately like, we're done here.
No, not even from the back, but like you know, it's like you can't. I always used to hear like, you know, it's like you can't go play in the sandbox and then go like step out, like and then come back into the house, right?
No.
So.
Yeah, that would be a no-go for me. The minute somebody just like started throwing that around. But that's a whole other conversation of how I feel about what society has done to anal. I'm
not saying like let your freak flag fly.
Yeah.
But
I just don't. I feel like everybody. I guess here's what I feel like when you have so much accessibility to some of that, and it's in your face all the time. Like we don't have a lot of. As a society anymore, we don't have a lot of taboos or forbidden. We have too much information. We have too much opportunity to find what we're looking for, right? I just think that sometimes people who are not a stronger mind are going to think that this is how I have to be, this is how I have to act, this is how I'm supposed to be, this is what people want, right? And not necessarily that that's true, but I don't know. That's a whole nother show for me.
Everybody's different, and the cool thing about planet Earth, from what I've been mostly
explored,
what I've observed, is there's 7 billion people here, and you know, you can get hung up on one, you can get hurt by one, you can make someone's day, but there's just a lot of other people, and you know, like growing up, I was used to hear it was kind of a snarky term, but it's like someone said to me, I was super heartbroken over a girl, probably my early 20s, and someone said to me something I heard growing up, but they reminded me of it, and they said, you know, try not to worry about a girl or like a bus, because there's gonna be another one in 10 minutes, right? Like don't get upset if you miss one or whatever. Like there's always
another one coming behind it.
Yes.
Don't worry.
And
you can catch the next one.
And that's an important reminder. I mean, it's not to say that people. I mean, I've hurt women that I've dated, and I've been hurt.
Right.
I've manipulated, and I've been the one manipulated. And it's a reminder. I tend to believe in that things come back around. I'm a super believer in karma.
Okay.
And sometimes
you believe that everything that you're putting out is going to come back to you.
100%.
Do you believe in that in the sense of, like if you hurt somebody and so somehow you're going to be hurt next, or
might
vice versa.
Might take you some time, but you'll feel it back.
Okay.
I truly believe in that. I've experienced it myself, and it's kind of like life's blessing and life's curse.
Do you feel like? Yeah, I was just gonna say. Do you feel like that's like just like a big learning moment for you? Because that's how I try to think of things now as more of a learning situation rather than just like pure. I was hurt and I was burned and. Now I hope that person gets hurt and burned because that's what they deserve. Like I try to just not focus on I try to just focus on me, and like that's a learning situation I can take onto myself and like learn how to not let that happen next time, or what process or steps got me there that I got hurt. I don't know.
Everything comes back around. You may not be there for it to come back around to the person you may want it to come back around for. But, you know, I felt it, you know, over time, and, you know, I've sort of grown and experienced things in different ways. So it's like there are times where people remind me of who I was when I was 23, 24 years old, 38 now, right? So, and they're like, oh, hey, look, you can just go back to that and just not give a fuck about X, Y, and Z, whatever happened. And I'll say I'm a different person. Not that I've changed.
Of course you're a different person.
But
from 22, 23, 24. But we all change. We all morph, and we have experiences that change and change who we are, change how we think about life and people and things. So yeah, of course you're different. I mean, if you have not grown, in that 10 to 15 years, then that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a weird experience, and I think we're all just kind of floating around trying to do the best we can. Sometimes we fuck up, sometimes we succeed.
Fair.
But you know, it's more about, like, I mean, we talk about dating and sex and stuff like that. I mean, it's really just about the connection. I mean, it's like, you think about life. Life is just a series of moments. And if you find somebody you can connect with for just a moment, that's a success. That's amazing. Because some people go through their lives and they never connect with anybody.
That'd be sad, huh?
I think it's super sad. And I'm not saying that they need to, like, just start, you know, find the person to, you know, start humping, but it's just a matter of... Yeah,
but that doesn't... Having sex doesn't necessarily mean connection.
It's true. Sometimes it's just raw dog animal style.
There's plenty of times that I could have sex with somebody and then never see them again and not care.
This is true.
So that's not a connection.
But it's a moment, right? So I'm not saying that life is a series of connections. I'm just saying life is a series of moments.
Right, for sure.
And that's really what it comes down to. And whether you're connecting with, you know, a good friend of yours, or someone who's you're going to be super intimate with, or someone who you're going to date for a very, very long time. I mean, just the most important thing I've learned about any type of relationship that I have, whether it's friendship, whether it's intimate, whether it's romantic, whether it's whatever, is that, you know, people change. People change from day to day.
Yeah, they do.
And that's sort of the problem with modern marriages. It doesn't factor in.
We've talked about that before.
Yes.
Okay.
That someone is going to change. Like, it doesn't.
Right.
It's this till death do you part thing. But But yet, this motherfucker's going to change 24 times before.
And I actually have a saying, and I don't know if I told you, because I know you kind of told me briefly about like your past and how you feel about marriage and all of that. And there's a saying that I always tell people, and I firmly believe it's true, and it's that women get married thinking their partners won't change. Or excuse me, women get married thinking their partners will change, and men get married thinking their partners will not change. So they think
100%.
that those women, they married this 23-year-old and she's gonna always be the same, and she's gonna always be like this, like she just loves me and she cooks for me and it's great and I like that about her and she always takes care of me. And women are like, he'll grow up, he'll come out of this phase.
Yeah.
And guess what? They don't.
Nope. No, we're just the same 12-year-olds that we
can all change and morph and grow together. I firmly believe that. I've known plenty of people who've been married for a long time, and that's why they're married for a long time, is because they appreciate the other person and they change together and they grow together and they celebrate each other's differences and they celebrate the learning and they celebrate, let's do this now, let's do that now. So I do think that's a big thing, but long-term relationship is growth. People are always going to change. They're always going to morph. They're always going to, and back to what we said earlier, it's human nature to want and to desire and to change what we want and desire.
Yeah, I think women it'd be a lot less stressful if a lot of women let guys be guys.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
And what I mean is,
Get anal and just like make dinner for you.
It doesn't have anything to do with dinner.
Just kidding.
Dinner or the butthole. But
well, thank God.
But sometimes it's like I like to use the example of, so what I've said before is that guys aren't looking for the next best thing. They're just looking for the next thing.
Okay.
Because that's kind of our biological imperative. Is if left to our own devices and with no penalties, right? We're seed spreaders. That's how human beings have been a successful species.
Okay.
But women are a little bit, more what they call hypergamous, right? If guys are polygamous, mostly, let's say that's not polygamous women. Women are a little bit more hypergamous. It's not about many; it's just about better.
Okay.
And
so we're looking for the best of the herd.
Yeah, and if your current cattle in that herd isn't passing the test, you might, and it might not be about sex. It might be just about attention. It might be about intellectual stimulation, or it could be about security. It could be about something else. We're sort of always provisioning. One of the best ways I've ever heard this described was there's declared monogamy and clandestine adultery.
What does that mean?
So declared
monogamy.
Declared monogamy is we're now in a relationship.
Okay.
But clandestine adultery is, hey, you're gonna look over here while we're still together.
Okay.
So I feel like there's a lot of that.
But isn't that cheating?
Yes. Yeah. Well, to some extent.
I guess it depends on if the partner knows. Sometimes that's the thing now.
To some extent, but I don't. It's like I don't decry it, right? I don't criticize it.
Yeah.
I know when I see it. Like there's a number of, so it happens in Scottsdale all the time, is if you ever go out and just kind of step out into the world, you will meet a married woman.
Okay.
And that married woman has no desire, none whatsoever, to leave her husband for you. But in the moment, she may want your attention.
Right.
In the moment, she may want you to tell her all these things about
Okay.
you and all these things about her and all these things that you
She needs
super
some
desire.
attention.
She needs some attention.
She's Tinkerbelling.
You're looking at her like, look at this object of potential sexual excitement, and she's looking at you like, this fucker's gonna tell me all these good things about me. And
I still got it.
yeah, and a part, and you got to be careful about that, right? But it definitely happens, and you can. And it's not to say it's just a Scottsdale thing or an Arizona
Yeah,
thing.
it could be anywhere.
Happens anywhere.
Any city, any town, could be a small town, South Dakota.
But
I've seen it. I've heard it.
but it happens, and the big question you have to sort of surmise is this someone who is genuinely looking at you like a long-term prospect, or is this somebody who just in the moment wants that attention?
But don't you judge everybody on that? Do you judge does that not, or do you just like in the moment on most people, or do you literally, when you start talking to somebody, are you already trying to assess what they want from you?
No, because that's not how I grew up. Like okay. I grew up, I mean, this is very personal, but I grew up with parents that I could easily see desired other people, but stuck together because either out of laziness or kind of like cheaper to keep her. So, and that's bold. Like when you're 9-10 years old, you realize your dad's got the hots for the bartender, or your mom's got the hots for, your, I don't know,
friend's dad,
your your seventh grade teacher. You're like, what the fuck? Why the fuck do these people get married? Right. So there's a piece of that, and I think that's really important. So my evolution is one thing, and then my nurture and how I was raised and what I saw growing up drastically impacts me. But it also comes with some demons, and it comes with some trauma, and it comes with a little insecurity too, where you start seeking out all the shit that you ran from as a kid because it's what you fucking know. Right.
Well, that is what we do as humans.
Yeah, it's what,
we go to what we know.
It's what you're familiar with, and so.
And some people, it takes a lot of work to get it beyond those things of themselves.
Yeah.
Like getting beyond, like running back to abuse or alcoholism, or finding a partner that is abusive alcoholic, or you know what I mean. Like that's just human nature. We gravitate to, like what you just said. We go to what we know.
It's it's sort of a, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, and so like it's like when I've dated out here and I've made some piss poor decisions, right, with some unique specimens. Of women out here in the valley. When I go back and dissect it, or when I go back and I do a little analysis on the fuck did I even get here? Why did that happen? A lot of it can be connected to what we were raised on, experiences we've had in the past, insecurities
absolutely.
We've developed with other partners, and you can choose to keep making those decisions. It's something that I wrestle with all the time.
Yeah, all of us.
Or you can go another route, but sometimes that other route doesn't feel as good, right? And you always defer back. So
right, because it doesn't feel quite as natural.
Yeah,
it doesn't jive quite as well.
There's no perfect way of approaching it. It's just a matter of do what feels right, do what's gonna keep you comfortable, keep you safe, and just see where it goes.
I just have one more question for you.
Hit me.
So, you and I were talking about something. I posted a thing about dick pics.
Oh, yes.
And your response was actually the most interesting one about dick pics. Do you remember this conversation?
Yes, I am totally. I am. Yeah, I know exactly what I said.
So basically, I'm just gonna do quick, and then I'm gonna let you talk about it. Okay. So, I had posted something about don't send dick pics. I personally do not like dick pics of dicks that I am not already personally familiar with.
Okay.
Once I'm in a relationship with somebody,
yes,
fire away. I'm into it. But if I don't know you and you send that to me, I'm automatically just like, why? Why did you do this to me? But your response on why guys do this was the most interesting of all. So tell me what you told me. Tell them what you told me.
Sending a dick pic is 100% evolutionary. If you think it's anything else, I'm about to tell you you're wrong.
So you told me that you did some research on this.
One of the hardest realities, one of the worst things that can happen to you as a guy. There's two worst things. The first thing is that the girl that you've convinced that you are the bomb realizes that you're not, and she finds somebody better. So she leaves you.
So that's number one.
That's terrible.
Okay.
That's a bad thing. It happens to guys. That's a reality.
Happens to girls.
Yeah, world we live in. But the second worst thing that can happen to you as a guy is when a woman decides that you are not an object of sexual desire. You are now in the friend zone.
The friend zone.
And you might delude yourself to thinking that you can climb out of that friend zone and into the fuck zone.
Right.
But that's it's not going to happen. Once somebody places you there, the likelihood, the probability,
gets pretty slim.
Probability you're going to climb out of there very, very low. What guys do, whether knowingly or unknowingly, is they sort of try to circumvent that. If I send you a picture of my penis, it makes you look at me as a sexual object, whether you want to or not.
Right.
Some people might be like, that's disgusting, and that's ignorant, and that's rapey, and that's all these things. And that's all true.
Yeah.
But
everybody has different views. I've known girls who think that's great.
Yeah. But it makes you consider me, whether I have a 10-inch cock or a 10-centimeter cock.
Ooh.
It makes you consider me as a sexual. You might want nothing to do with it, but at least in like.
But it's forcing the sexuality in the situation.
Yeah, it's not giving you an opportunity to be like, oh, let me.
You don't get to be like, oh, you're so nice, and that you're like, here's my dick. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
So now you have to consider a sexual situation. Is that's kind of what you're saying, right? Like you're forcing sexuality on this scenario rather than allowing it to go into the friend zone.
I wouldn't even call it forcing sexuality, but it's like you're foregoing friendship.
Okay.
You're saying that, I desire you sexually. Here's my chance to show you.
Here's my peacocking.
Right. Exactly. Cocking. Exactly.
I'm peacocking my scenario to you.
Right. What I'm working with, whether you like it or not, I'm still elevating myself above a proposed friend zone. And I say that as a guy who tries to be a pretty good human being and can be classified in that nice guy, very communicative, you know.
You seem like a classy dude.
Yeah.
Or you probably wouldn't be sitting here.
It's a tough. Have I sent dick?
He has not sent me a dick pic.
I've not sent Rhonda dick pic. Have I sent other women dick pics? 100%.
Sure, of course.
Yes. I also like what I'm working with, but at the same time, do I know what my desire when I've done that in the past is to not be seen as a friend, especially if I want to be seen as fuckable.
Right.
So I think that's what it comes down to. And I've tried to break that down to some people. People are like, no, fuck that. I don't like that. That's bullshit.
They don't like that response. They don't like that answer. They don't like that,
but,
explanation of that.
I sat in the front row of my biology class and I paid attention.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think it's a good idea. I like it. I actually thought it was great. I was like, when you said that, I'm like, yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think that makes sense. That makes sense to, subconsciously, the guy is, trying to say, that's what people do in nature. That's what animals do in nature, right?
Yes.
They show their stuff. I was just watching some nature show the other day, and the birds all, do this dance, and they get, they flap their arms around. It's kind of the same thing.
Like the chicken dance.
Right. It's the same. It's the same thing, except we, as humans, have a little bit more. I don't even know what the right word is. We're a little higher on the food chain, so we're clothed and we're opposable thumbs and all that. So we have to find other ways to show those things that they do in nature naturally, and it makes sense to me. I thought it was a great explanation.
Why, thank you.
I was like, yeah, I like that. I told other people about it. I'm like, I've heard, now I know why people send dick pics, and that does not mean to send them to me.
No dick pics for Rhonda.
Let me be clear. I get it. It doesn't mean send them because I don't want to see. But anyhow, yeah, that was great.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Rhonda,
Thank you so much.
Rhonda on the reel.
I know. He's always got the best, like, plays on the Rhonda thing. I always think my name's kind of dumb, but whatever. I'm sticking with it. I'm going with it.